Welcome back to the Knitting Depot. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to make a winter cowl or neck warmer. I used Lionbrand Woolies yarn, and it's a worsted weight number 4 yarn. It's 80% acrylic and 20% wool. It should be nice and warm for a winter cowl. It's really stretchy at the bottom because I used a knit 2 purl 2 rib. I used size 8 circular needles to knit this. It's very adjustable. You can cast on any number of stitches. I used 100 stitches. As long as you do a multiple of 4, it will be fine. You can make it longer as well. I usually make it run about 9 to 9.5 inches from the cast on edge to the cast off edge, but it's fully customizable depending on how you want to make it, what your needs are. I would cast on in a multiple of 4 because we're going to do a knit 2 purl 2 rib, and you want to make sure it's even. So any number of stitches in a multiple of 4, and 100 stitches seems to fit me pretty well. It's not real snug if I want to pull it up over my mouth, and it does fit around over my head and comfortably around my neck. Again, you can make it smaller or larger. This is a very customizable pattern. I will have the pattern link in the description. It is a free pattern that will be on my Ravelry page, and it will be linked in the comments. So cast on 100 stitches or whatever number of stitches you would like in a multiple of 4. And then I used a long tail cast on to cast on. It just gives it a nice finished edge, and it's kind of a stretchy edge because you are going to be slipping this over your head. Once you've completed your cast on, then you're going to simply knit 2 purl 2 all the way around for about 1.5 to 2 inches. I believe I did 1.5 here, so we can just measure just a little bit over 1.5 inches. And whatever you do for the ribbing, whatever measurement, you're going to want to remember that, because when we get to the other side of the cowl, you want to do the same number of inches. So if you have 1.5 inches here, you want to have 1.5 inches on the other end as well. Once you've completed your 1.5 or 2 inches of ribbing, then you're simply going to knit every row, and make sure you have your stitch marker so that you can figure out where you've left off. It's easy to tell where you start and stop when you're doing the ribbing, and as you can see with your tail, I could tell here, but once you're in your stocking net, you don't know. So once you have started knitting in the stocking net stitch, which is knit every round, you're going to knit until your piece measures roughly 7 inches from your cast on edge. So right now I am just about 4 inches. So I'm going to continue casting or knitting my remaining 3 inches, and then I will be back and we can finish up the end of our cowl and cast off. I'll finish this off camera and I'll see you soon. Okay, welcome back. So I have completed my ribbing, my knit 2 purl 2 rib. I have completed my stockinette stitch portion, and I've got about 8 inches on here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the knit 2 purl 2 rib to finish off the cowl for about another 1.5 inches. So we want this section to match the new section, and then we will cast off. And this is the end of my final row of stockinette. We'll slip our marker, and then we will knit 2 and purl 2. Around the row. And we'll continue this for another 1.5 inches. And then we will cast off. And you can cast off in a couple of different ways. You can use a standard cast off where you knit a stitch, knit another stitch, and then slip that stitch over the second one. Or we can do a stretchier cast off. Sometimes I do both. Sometimes I will do a stretchy cast off. Sometimes I do a regular cast off, because if I'm going to plan on putting it up over my nose at all, if it's really, really cold out, I like to have that little bit of a firmer hold so it will kind of stay on my face. But we'll take a look at both, and I will continue my knit 2 purl 2 rib, and I will meet you back here. Okay, so we have completed our knit 2 purl 2 rib for 1.5 inches. Then we continued on and we completed 7 or 8 inches in stockinette stitch. Measure this from your cast on edge to here. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter, whatever suits you. And then we added a knit 2 purl 2 rib in a matching measurement from the beginning cast on edge. So this was 1.5 inches. We did 1.5 inches here approximately. And then we are going to cast off. So you have a couple of options. Casting off, I choose to cast off in a in pattern. It gives me a little bit more versatile use of my cowl. It's, you know, it's not as tight and snug around my neck or my face. So you could cast off by knitting every stitch and cast off that way, and it is not going to be as stretchy. Our cast on was pretty stretchy. Sometimes the first couple I made, I did like it because the stiffer cast off would hold around my nose if I wanted to put it up over my face. But for this one, I am going to do a cast off in pattern. So I knit 2, and then see my next stitch is a purl, so we're going to purl. Okay, so there's our 2 purl stitches cast off. The first 2 may be a little tricky. And then knit your cast off, knit, I do have a whole video on binding off or casting off. I'll try to link it below for you if you want to review that. This is a great project to knit, especially during the summer, because it's not real hot and heavy in your hands, And you can knit quite a few of them over the summer to give as gifts during the holidays. And these are our 2 knit stitches, so we're just going to knit, slip that other stitch over, knit the next stitch, slip that stitch over, and then we're going to purl. Slip that stitch over, and then we will purl, slip that stitch over. And I used 1 ball of the Lionbrand wool ease yarn for this cowl, and I have quite a bit left. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet. But you can definitely get a good size cowl out of that 1 ball. And it's a reasonable price usually. And you can get it like at Michael's, or you can get it online. And it's great because, you know, you can make a little winter garment for not a lot of money and a lot of fun. Okay, and I will continue binding off camera, and we'll come back when it's all set. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so we have completed our cast off, and we are going to cut a tail. Leave yourself a reasonable tail so that you can weave in your end. And we'll weave this in right here, so this will be, I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But this is our, let me see if I can pull this out just a little. So from start to finish, we're at about 9.5 inches, and we're about 20 inches around. It's pretty stretchy. Our cast off edge is not too bad. There are other methods to cast off that are very stretchy, and we will go over those in a future video. This one's still a little more stretchy than our cast off edge. And then you can actually just weave this end in and go ahead and wear it. So let me grab a needle. And we will weave this end in here. So you just need a tapestry needle or yarn needle. And then I just weave this in here and then back through. So you don't have that jog right there anymore. Sometimes I like to do it more than once just to be sure that it's really secure. See how I left that long there though? I don't like that, so I'm going to take that out. you don't want to leave anything that's going to get stuck on any jewelry or anything when you're pulling it over your head. There we go, that's better. And you can just weave it in. I like to weave in on the inside. Because it's going to be less noticeable. And I go back and forth the opposite direction a few times. Just to make sure it's secure and it's not going to come undone. There we go. And then we can cut it. And then we would simply repeat for the other side to weave it in. And there you have your winter cowl. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share. We have lots of content planned coming up for some really fun projects. One of the next projects coming up will be a knit for purl for cowl. And we also have some pumpkins that we're going to make. And lots of other projects and lots of Stitch Library videos coming up. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Happy knitting! And I'll see you in the next video.